Hello, and welcome to the episode of Todd Talks. When Todd Talks, people listen. Hopefully. Today, we have a very fun prediction video, preview video, whatever you want to call it. Because today, we are talking about an army battle. Something I can honestly say I have not done in my predictions thus far. It is the Koopa Troop, led by King Bowser, versus the Eggman Empire, led by Dr. Ivo Robotnik, aka the Eggman. And this is going to be interesting because I will be diving as best I can in a certain amount of time into both Bowser and Eggman and their armies. Now, some of it will be quick. I'm just not going to sugarcoat that, because if you really think about it, it really doesn't matter at times that this is an army fight. But there are certain elements that we do need to talk about. I've even written down some things to remember so that I cover everything, because there are some nitty gritty elements that could shape this fight one way or another. So let's start with the King of the Koopas, Bowser. One of the 7-star children. He was eventually found by Comic Koopa, not Cammy, that's the Paper Mario version. Although I suppose she could be in there too, but they've confirmed Comic. And eventually was raised to be the true king of the Koopa Troop, the Koopa Clan, the Bowser Army, whatever you want to call them. And he has many of the skills you would expect. I want to call him evil and anti-hero-ish kind of character. It depends on the games. Like, Bowser's got a variety of personalities depending on, what version you're getting, because he went from like just standard I'm capturing the princess to, a little more nuanced to, I have a good relationship with my son, to, okay, I'll help Mario just once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, that kind of thing. So regardless of how you want to define it, that isn't talking about like, Mario Party or the Mario Kart, or I mean, he's trying to win, but yeah. So, but once Bowser became fully grown into the king of the Koopas, he was able to dominate not just a kingdom of his own. Because remember, he always had a kingdom. Because as they noted in the preview, he is the ruler of the outcasts. Basically, all of the characters that aren't toads or humanoids like Peach, Mario, Luigi, and so on and so forth. He's their ruler. He's their king. And that's why he has such a vast army. And it helps that he's not only bigger than any other Koopa out there, including his own kids and relatives. The Koopalings are technically his nieces and nephews, technically. But Bowser Jr. is actually his son. Though we don't know who the mother is. Never got a canon answer to that, Bowser. We know you are the father, Bowser. So who's the mother? We need to know. And that size and power, not the least of which is because he's a star child, allows him to do just massively incredible things that have evolved heavily over the games and series that he has been in. And if you didn't see from the previews, we are counting both the mainline, the party series, which they did with Mario vs. Sonic, and the Paper Mario franchise. All right, so basically everything that he could reasonably get, with just a very few exceptions, he has in here. So everything from the mainline games, all the RPGs like Super Mario RPG and Mario and Luigi's Saga, outside of Brothership, because that literally just came out, and I don't think he would have gotten anything from there anyway. So everything is on board. And that includes the fact that even though we see him traditionally as this towering physical menace, he is a sorcerer, as is some of the other beings in his army, including Comic and many of the Koopalings. The iconic classic story from the Mario games was that Bowser and Comic would turn the toads to stone, and it was Princess Peach's goodness magic, as stated in the preview, that brought them back. So yeah, he has that power to turn them to stone. And that's just one of his insane abilities. Like, I actually learned quite a bit about Bowser, even and I'm a diehard Nintendo fan, boy. So, I've been playing Mario for decades, and even I didn't know some of this stuff. So that should show you just how deep this rabbit hole goes with the Koopas. So he's incredibly strong. He's actually faster than you might think, which again scales to Mario, Luigi, and the star driver feat from the Mario Party games. You could even argue that some of his creations are light speed, including the Koopa Clown car, which is stated to go across galaxies, interstellar travel thanks to Super Mario Galaxy, and yeah, that's pretty fast. So, but even if he doesn't have the raw speed that say a certain Blue Blur has, who we'll get to, he does have incredible speed and power on his own, especially when he grows in size to insane levels. He can do this naturally. He can do this with Kamek's help. He can do it with like internal help, if you remember Bowser's Inside Story, or he can just wish it because he's got a lot of wishing powers, and that's the thing here. The Koopa Troop, Koopa Clan, have a lot of, what do you want to call it, non-typical abilities. Like when you think about the main army of Bowser, you think of the Koopas, you think of the Goombas, you think of the Shy Guys, you think of the Spikies, the Bloopers, the Boos sometimes, the Bob-ombs, and so on and so forth. And they inherently have abilities that make a fight just hard to compute. I mean, just the bob-ombs. They are literal bombs, and they not just blow up. When they blow up, they come back. Okay, except for Bobby in Paper Mario Origami King, but we don't talk about that one because that was an actual traumatic event in a not so great game. Paper Mario Thousand Year Door for life, and with Bobbery, he blasted enemies incredibly, and then a whole bunch of bob-ombs actually detonated to the extent that they fired Mario and his companions to the moon. And they were all fine. Everyone was fine. Mm-hmm. So now imagine the army of Bob-ombs doing that, because he has them. And he has King Bob, who you might remember from Super Mario 64 and various other Mario Party games. And obviously that guy's got a lot more explosive power. Then you've got King Boo, who is obviously the king of the Boos, and eternal rival to Luigi via the Luigi's Mansion games, who was actually able to capture Mario and Luigi individually. Somehow, it's never really explained why, he was actually able to burst out of a containment picture that no other Boo could do. He could turn invisible, which makes him intangible, and he technically can't die. It's debatable, but he technically cannot die. So, nice. And that doesn't even talk about, of course, the Koopalings and Bowser Jr., all of which are characters in Smash Brothers. Yeah. So, the Koopalings are basically just mini Bowsers. I will call them mini Bowsers. I will have 1 million Koopalings. If only. I actually wonder how that would work in a death battle. But no, there are 8 of them? Yeah, there's 8 of them because it's Bowser, then the 7 of the Koopalings. Because remember, 8 skins in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Wii U and Ultimate. So yeah, there's 8 of them. And they have their own special physical abilities, magical attacks. Many of them have wands from Kamek. And so they can do various attacks. Bowser Jr. is obviously famous for his mini Koopa Clown car and his paintbrush, which allows him to create the dark ink Mario, which you might remember from Super Mario Sunshine. And he has various other abilities that he has used over various periods. So how good they are is actually debatable because they're never shown like the feats that Bowser has. They can scale to him in certain respects, like when a certain castle fell on them and they were all fine. They get beaten up by Mario and Luigi all the time and they're fine, and so on and so forth. So Bowser's actually got a pretty good army, and even with, I didn't talk about Kamek. Let me talk about Kamek really quick. Kamek is easily the best magic user of the bunch, outside of maybe Bowser, but even then, Kamek topped Bowser, so, scaling. Kamek can teleport, Kamek can summon minions, summon clones. His magic, her magic? His magic? Yeah, it's magic. His magic can turn creatures to stone. So, again, he taught that spell to Bowser. I mentioned teleporting. He pulls a Rita Repulsa quite a lot. Make my monster grow. He can do that with Bowser. He can do that with the other minions. He can even shrink them at times. So useful. And it's implied that it also, and of course he has the classic Magic Blast, which you see in the platforming games and Paper Mario. So he has a lot of different abilities that can help with a fight. And then going back to Bowser, even if you don't talk about his raw abilities like his flamethrower, his claws, his spiky shell, his ground pounding ability, which can send shockwaves everywhere, you have to talk about his equipment. And this is where things get really interesting, because Bowser has a lot more equipment than you might think. Let me look at my thing right here. I already mentioned Stone One. So yeah, in the RPGs, which will count for this, he has lots of equipment that can power him up, and certain ones that grant him immunity to status effects, including like acts of possession, transmutation, and technically death. Now, obviously, we'd have to look into that one more, but the wiki I looked at said that he had 2 different special shells that actually make him immune to death. Useful. Useful. Let's see. And then some of my favorites, which are the ones I know a lot of people are banking on for Bowser to win, are the Star Rod and the Dreamstone. So just to be clear, the Star Rod is from Paper Mario, not the same Star Rod as the Kirby series, although technically they're both incredibly powerful Star Rods. Go figure. So the Star Rod from the Paper Mario series is up on, Star Road, Star Way, whatever they called it, and it was the device that, along with the Star Spirits, allowed wishes to be granted to those below in the Mushroom Kingdom and beyond. Bowser broke into it, grabbed the Star Rod, sealed away the spirits, and used it to make himself invincible, like legit invincible. Mario, with all of his power, could not harm him. And then through the Star Rod, used his own wishes to empower his generals to be various levels of power. So like he made King Goomba bigger, he made Grubba Tubba invincible by like actually removing his heart. Useful. He helped Huff and Puff take over the plains, so on and so forth. The Star Rod grants wishes, legit, like full stop, and it took the combined power of the Star Spirits, Twink, and the wishes of the entire Mushroom Kingdom to power themselves up enough so that they could break Bowser's invincibility. So they basically countered a wish with more wishes. And even then, he could still power himself back up. And then there was the Dream Stone, which he took from another villain, and it's also a wish maker, to the extent that he actually started to wish Mario out of existence before it was stopped. More on that later. And then when it got shattered, because of that interference, he actually absorbed it into and became Dreamy Bowser. Now, one could argue, wasn't Bowser always dreamy? I mean, look at the guy. Look at the Koopa. I'm just joking. Look, that just got weird. No, Dreamy Bowser is a state where he gains, like, insane power and abilities, and it took the combined efforts of Mario and Luigi and some shenanigans, like reverting or returning his attacks back to Bowser to defeat him. And so that was technically his most powerful form, though, because he is this wish infused superpower infused being. And yes, you could count, like Giga Bowser or Fury Bowser from Bowser Fury as some of his most powerful forms, but Dreamy Bowser is stated to be the most powerful. So when you and just being honest here, this goes back to the previous death battle with Bowser. He's just so hard to kill. Okay, he's tanked stars, he's tanked black holes, and he's tanked another thing that I'll mention a little bit later. He keeps getting beaten up by Mario and Luigi, among other people. He keeps coming back. He keeps getting stronger. He's oh so determined, and even when he dies, like legit dies via Dry Bowser form, right? Because remember, he has regular form, he has the undead form via Dry Bowser, and then, as stated in the last death battle, if you do enough force to Dry Bowser, he will die. Except Bowser Jr. has a cauldron that he just chucks the bones into, and Bowser comes back. This is canon. This is canon. So yeah, it's really hard to beat the King of the Koopas, ladies and gentlemen. It just is. So a certain doctor is gonna have a hard time beating him. Maybe. And now we will turn to Dr. Ivo Robotnik, aka the Eggman. I almost said aka Egg. aka Egg. Yeah, aka the Eggman. So, Dr. Ivo Robotnik, long before he was an egomaniacal, terror warlord person, being, entity, dude. Like, that's just your opinion, man. He was the child of geniuses. Like, it's even stated that his IQ of 300 was inherited. It wasn't just something he had. He got it because his family, who curiously we've only met two of, with Maria and Gerald Robotnik. Not kind of odd? I mean, think about it. Then again, we haven't met Bowser's partner, Bowser Jr.'s mother, so, canon. So, he was the child of geniuses, a whole family of scientific geniuses. And at first, he wanted nothing more than to be a true follow-up to Gerald Robotnik, who, of course, was a massive genius who wanted to help humanity in benevolent ways most of the time. Again, canon gets weird. But because of the death of Maria, and what followed, Eggman got bitter. In fact, he got so bigger he got almost craven for attention. He was desperate for his family to acknowledge his genius instead of mourning the child that was long since dead. And so because of that, he decided to step away from his grandfather's legacy and create his own. He wanted to make an Eggman Empire, headed up, of course, as noted in the preview, by Eggman Land. Yeah. Not on the nose at all. So the good news for Dr. Ivo Robotnik, this is before he was the Eggman, was that he was a genius builder. He is truly unparalleled in many respects when it comes to his robotic knowledge. Like him versus, like if we want to do a build-off between him and versus Tails, I'm pretty sure Eggman would win. I'm just saying. Tails can build things. Eggman can build better things. I'm just gonna put that out there. I know it's a hot take, you Tails fans out there, but I'm just saying. I think Tails actually does have a higher IQ, but it doesn't matter. So he has built numerous robots over the course of his life, and their abilities and even power sources have been unique. And of course, the ones we all think about are the badniks, which are the robots that are powered by animals. I use what you got, right? Isn't that the mother of necessity? Necessity's mother of all inventions. Like, hey, I can take the power source of living animals. Why don't I just put that instead of having to come up with an energy core? Okay. So the badniks are the main smaller enemies, like the true infantry that Sonic and his friends have to deal with. And then over time, he's built bigger, better, badder robots and various creations to help him. I'm not even going to go into some of the names just because there are so numerous, but you can think of the standard ones like the Egg Robo, which is like the duplicate Eggman that takes over for him so that Eggman himself doesn't have to get involved. They're the mecha forms of Shadow and Knuckles and Sonic. That's Mecha Sonic, not Metal Sonic. I'm getting to him. There's his various vehicles that he wields. There's of course the Eggmobile, which is like the cockpit for all of the main things. There's the Egg Fleet, which can be like hundreds in number, and that didn't talk about the giant base that is the Death Egg, which we will talk about, I promise. So he's got a lot, and then he kept going because he had to find a way to beat Sonic, and that became Metal Sonic. Dun 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 dun. I binge watched basically every Mario and Sonic episode of Relevancy last Sunday just to prep for this fight. You're welcome. So Metal Sonic was arguably Eggman's greatest creation in terms of trying to defeat Sonic singularly, not take over the world, defeat Sonic singularly. And Metal Sonic was specifically designed to be a near perfect replica to Sonic in terms of power, speed, durability, and so on. And even in the death battle of Metal Sonic versus Zero, they noted that not only was Eggman a success, he was able to both match and sometimes surpass Sonic. Now, this is obviously debatable now because there have been new games that have come out, including new stuff with Metal Sonic, to my knowledge. And there is, of course, the debate about how fast really is Sonic, because in the death battle they said that Metal Sonic tops out at about 25,000 miles per hour, but they also said in Sonic versus Mario that Sonic is now just under light speed in his base form, no other items. And now there are people saying, like, oh, he actually is faster than light in base form, and so it's complicated. But even still, Metal Sonic has various abilities that can help Eggman in his various fights, including the ability to copy certain attacks, though it is an imperfect copy. All right, that does need to be said. And he has the Black Shield, which is impenetrable. He has perfect or near perfect copies of Knuckles attacks, Tails attacks, Chaos Control in certain quantities, the homing dash, and so on and so forth. And he has been a match for Sonic at times, including when he assumes his numerous powered forms, including Neo Metal Sonic, Metal Madness, and then, of course, Metal Overlord, which was the form that needed Sonic Silver, and Shadow, all in their super forms, to go and defeat him. So, all living things kneel before your master. Yeah. So he's not invincible. That was never the case. Like, that's the whole point, is that he can come close to Sonic, but he always gets defeated in the end. Sometimes just because his own body can't keep up. That's just the truth. And then in more recent games, he got, so if Metal Sonic was the imperfect son that keeps rebelling against Eggman, then you got Sage. Yes, Sage from Frontiers, who was confirmed to be in the battle if you haven't seen the little mini previews. Sage was a highly advanced AI that Eggman created to help him on the Starfall Islands. I'm not going to go over the plot of Frontiers, but very loosely, there was ancient technology on the Starfall Islands that Eggman wanted, including a thing called the cyberspace that he felt he could use to yada, 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 yada. He created Sage to integrate with the cyberspace, which was this technology made by the Ancients. And she was, not unlike Metal Sonic, as perfect a creation as he could hope for. However, she was untested. And so when he integrated her into the cyberspace, she actually kind of sort of evolved, not unlike Metal Sonic, but in a good way, because while she could control the various things on the islands, including the mechs that Sonic and his friends would go and fight, she realized that there was a greater danger known as the End that could threaten Dr. Eggman's plans. And Sage was specifically made, this is important, was specifically made to protect Eggman. So what she did was she just trapped him in the cyberspace to save him. Oops. And then, there's another key thing. She kind of had trouble getting him out. Like, seriously, it wasn't Sage who got Eggman out. It was Sonic. Again, I'm not going to go into that. But her control over machines is actually pretty important, especially since, Eggman's got a robot army, so that would probably help him. But that doesn't mean that Eggman doesn't get involved himself. Of course, he has the various egg fleet and the egg robots that he can control, some of which are, much more powerful than others, including the one that Boomstick is now drooling over, the Egg Dragoon. And then, of course, there is the Death Egg robot, which is the Death Star for Eggman, which was canonically stated, this is from Sonic Battle, to destroy star clusters. Not a star, star clusters. Not bad, Eggman, not bad. So, why does this genius that inspired our dear Wiz keep losing? Well, plot, obviously. And two, Eggman really doesn't while he can think far ahead and has outsmarted both Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, and all of them many times over, when things go wrong, he tends to just like carry on no matter what. For example, with Sage warned him that this threat of because she was so new, she was untested, and thus she didn't know what would happen when she integrated with the cyberspace. Eggman didn't care, so she integrated anyway, and thus she trapped him in the cyberspace. Later on, she was the one to say, hey, we should probably work with Sonic to defeat the end, and Eggman was initially against it. Like, how dare you suggest such a thing? I refuse. I demand that you do not run simulations about that. They eventually got a father-daughter dynamic. It's adorable. Parents! So, he keeps doing that, and then it happens all the time. And even with the Time Eater, which is another thing I know a lot of people are banking on to help Eggman win. The Time Eater was being a primordial being that required a tremendous amount of things to control, and even though that they had a being that literally could take chunks of time and just remove it from the time stream itself, they weren't able to beat the two forms of Sonic. In fact, they took two forms of Eggman to help control the Time Eater. And even still, they weren't able to defeat the Sonics, classic and new version, because they just keep underestimating their opponents. Eggman thinks he's so superior with his creations, with his army, that he can't lose. And yet he does. He keeps losing. That's the whole point. He comes close at times, like with Sonic Forces and like things with the Phantom Ruby, but never really seems to work out. But he'll keep coming back no matter how much Sonic eggs him on. I'm terrible, I know. Alright, so who wins in an army battle between Bowser and the Koopa Troop versus Eggman and the Eggman army? This is where it's actually kind of funny to talk about, because you'd think that with as we saw with the Death Battle preview today, things like the Metal Virus, which turns them into Zombots, would be an easy win for Eggman, except that's not actually accurate. First of all, the zombie virus could sorry, let's just call it the I'll keep calling it the Metal Virus. I want to say it's the zombie virus. Zombies. First of all, the zombie virus only works on organics, not on inorganic matter, and Bowser's army has plenty of inorganic creatures. I made sure to look it up. The Metal Virus does not affect things like wood, metal, and stone, and things of that nature. It can affect like cloth, because cloth technically comes from certain things that are organic, I guess. But but like stone and metal are completely off the table, which is great because he's got thwomps, chain chomps, booze technically wouldn't be organic. Like what's a ghost made up of? Okay, so that's not an issue. And then of course Bowser's got two different wish makers that could just, I wish this thing wasn't affecting my crew anymore, and they would be fine. So I'm actually, even though I was initially worried about the Metal Virus, I don't think it's much of an issue now. The other thing is that if you really look at the armies, you don't really need to care about much of them, because one side or the other has a way to wipe them out in one way or another. Allow me to explain. Well, Eggman's robots are powerful in their own way, especially ones like with Metal Sonic and whatever. You could argue that Bowser himself can just go right through them. They're not meant to be, outside of ones like Metal Sonic, they're not meant to be the most durable things, all right? And while Sonic is, a high-tier character in terms of power and speed, Bowser can match that in various ways, and that's without his special power-ups and all of that. So Bowser could wipe out much of Eggman's army on his own, and that doesn't even take into account Bowser Jr., the Koopalangs, and Kamek, among others. And then, and if I wanted to be even more simple about it, King Bob-omb, which is metal, King Bob-omb could get supersized by Comic, thrown into the battlefield of Eggman's fleet, detonate, and kill pretty much everything. I mean, that's a legit scenario. And remember, Bowser himself in the Mario and Luigi games once held a giant cannonball in his small form and threw it back. So he'd be able to lift King Bob-omb in a huge form, throw him, watch him detonate, and then just go. Now, likewise, Eggman with his various egg fleet could easily wipe out much of Bowser's forces. And I would totally say that the egg fleet is better than Bowser's wooden ships. I mean, hello? Hello? So that's not an issue. And like even in the preview, they were talking about like, the Goombas and Koopas and Spikies and whatever, first one's in, first one's out. And that's exactly the thing here. While they are a more varied force, they're not exactly the most powerful. That's half the point. And even though you could say like you can't really kill a Koopa unless you take its shell, I'm pretty sure they'd be fine. Again, the metal virus would take them out anyway. So those ones are out. Now Chain Chomps and Thwomps and Bob-ombs and King Boo, those are a lot more of a wild card. Like, how would you take them out? It's not exactly clear, especially since, again, King Boo is a ghost, so you can't really kill a ghost. Remember, Luigi's just sucking up the booze. It's not the same. What this really comes down to, and I really do mean this, what it really comes down to is how do you take out, let's call them the generals and the leaders. That's what this really boils down to. And if we're going to look at that, it really looks like Bowser has the win. And here's why. Metal Sonic would be a problem, a big problem, especially if they do give Eggman the Chaos Emeralds, which, cheating, sure, but Bowser's got other things to handle the Chaos Emeralds, so that I honestly don't think that'd be a problem. And again, even with Chaos Emeralds, Metal Overlord has lost in the past, so I don't think that'd be a problem. Sage is a wild card. Sage, I don't know how you would kill because she's technically a digital construct, and yes, Sage would be able to control Bowser's machines, mainly like the Bowser mechs that we know Bowser Jr. has operated in the past and so on and so forth, but not everything of his is mechanical or even technology based. Some of it's magic, so that would render her moot. And so with certain magical things you could neutralize her, and she did die in the game, so there are ways to defeat her. It's just it'd be a little more tricky. I'm not sure how you beat the Koopalings, because their feats are a bit tricky to handle here. Bowser, they don't scale to Bowser. I'm fair to say that they're not as powerful as Bowser, so you could argue that someone like, say, Metal Overlord could take out the Koopalings. Comic is a little different because teleportation and magic is just not something that Eggman handles. That's just how it is. So you could argue that Comic could, be a big nuisance, especially with Stone Wand, which Comic has. So he could turn the army, even Metal Sonic, into stone, and then stone gets shattered. That's just how stone works. Sorry. So then it becomes a fight between Bowser and Eggman. And let's be honest here, this is really how the fight's gonna end. All right, they're gonna do a long thing with the armies, slowly picking each other off, and then Bowser and Eggman. They might even have like Sage and Bowser Jr. knock each other out, and then like the parents get mad. It's like, what did you do to my daughter, you dumb turtle? It's like, roar! How dare you hurt my son? That kind of thing. And they'll go at each other. So who wins between Bowser and Eggman? And while a bit trickier than I initially anticipated, because of things like the Phantom Ruby, which can apparently attack invulnerable forms, like the super forms of a Sonic, Bowser just owns if we're going by pure stats. And here's why I say that. The Death Egg can destroy star clusters. I looked it up, and there's multiple wikis that prove this, including the preview video. It destroys star clusters. In Super Mario Galaxy, Bowser had what was it called? The Galaxy Reactor, which was a device of his own creation. Bowser built this, and it had the power to destroy a universe. At the end of Super Mario Galaxy, Bowser activated this. It destroyed the universe, and then Rosalina, which shows how OP she is, saved Mario, Bowser, and whoever else, and took them back to the Mushroom Kingdom. Okay? So, and it was specifically stated in the end credits, or the booklet that talked about the plot. It was specifically stated that Bowser, like, nearly died due to meeting the universe's end. He nearly died. All right, and he's been taken black holes multiple times. He's tanked a star, a stillborn star, whatever that is. I didn't look into that, and so on and so forth. So Eggman can destroy clusters of stars. Impressive. Bowser tanked a universe. And I know what you're thinking. Wait a minute, doesn't that mean that Ganon couldn't have killed him? No, Ganon could still kill him because he could have just turned him into dry bones and then defeated him that way. But it probably would have been a little bit closer, and Bowser still couldn't have killed Ganon. But while Eggman is powerful with his machines, Bowser can wreck them, whether in Giga Bowser form, Fury Bowser form, Dreamy Bowser form. And again, the Star Rod and the Dream Stone are wish makers. If he really wanted to, if he wanted to be that petty, he could just wish them all away. And here's the kicker. Remember the Dream Stone about erasing Mario from existence that I told you about? The way that they countered that, it's as stated in the game and the wiki I was reading, was by good thoughts. Yeah, so Bowser's negative thoughts of using the Dream Stone were countered by Peach's good thoughts about trying to save Mario or whatever, and there was another character involved. And that's what caused the Dream Stone to crack, and thus Bowser absorbed it and became Dreamy Bowser. So he had the power, legit, to erase Mario from existence, was doing that, and then was interfered with. Eggman would not be able to do that, obviously, because he don't have good thoughts. So, better durability, I would argue better power overall, just because, especially in his super forms, he's just that powerful. Invincibility via the Star Rod, again, which is proven with Paper Mario. And then his numerous gear, which prevents transmutation, status effects, death, apparently. That was, for the record, that was the Lazy Shell and the Super Suit. And I didn't talk about his magical abilities, where he can turn people to stone, control the elements, and whatever. He can wreck. If you put the Eggman army against Bowser, I would still pick Bowser. Everyone coming at him at once, Bowser would just keep going. That's who Bowser is. So, even with the Time Eater, which would be the only wild card in this, but I think that Dreamy Bowser and the Star Rod combination is enough to defeat Dream Eater. Because again, all it took was 2 supersonic forms to defeat the Dream Eater, which was put in a cyborg of all things. So I don't think that would be a problem. And if you think, but what about time manipulation? Bowser's actually got time travel. He used that in Mario and Luigi back in, what was it called? Baby Squad or something like that. I don't remember. But Bowser went back in time randomly to go team up with his younger self. Okay. So, yeah. While there are some wild cards that are really hard to predict, if we're doing this as a true army versus army fight, I think Bowser's got this, because he's got people who can't die, like King Boo. He's got his own powers, which make him incredibly hard to beat. And as good as Eggman is, his whole deal is that he doesn't get physically involved himself outside of his robots. He's never the one. He can attack. He has apparently really great strength and speed, but he's nowhere near as durable as Bowser. And they even said in the preview video, the Eggmobile survived the black hole. Not Eggman, the Eggmobile. So the Eggmobile is protecting Eggman from the black hole. That's a completely different thing. So in the end, I think Bowser's got just enough between durability, skills, magic, and even his army to take out Eggman and everything that he has to offer. So, with that, I'm ending this episode of Todd Talk. Who do you think is going to win between Bowser and Eggman in this epic army fight that everyone's excited for? I am so excited for it. I can't wait to see it. And how do you think the battle is going to end? Let me know in the comments below. So, I thank you for watching. If you made this far, I know you were listening, and I'll see you around.